Hey everybody, I'm Van Soles out here at Camp Mack, Florida. Out here today on a nice day after just getting out on the lake, and just kind of wanted to give you a little recap of the 2014 Bassmaster Southern Open out here on the Kissimmee Chain out of Lake Toho. I was fortunate enough to win the tournament out of a 3-day event and qualify for the Bassmasters Classic in 2015. And just kind of want to give you a recap on how the tournament went and some of the valuable features and baits that made that possible for me. And I want to kind of start off on the way we had it rigged up. What we have for those tournament conditions, it was real cold, it was windy, temperatures got down into the low 30s each night. We'll push that water temperature around 55 degrees at a high for the day. And with that being said, you know, the fish were real lethargic. They hunkered down into the heaviest vegetation they could find, or they went offshore. But I'm more of a shoreline fisherman, and I really enjoy punching mats. And in the state of Florida, that's a real popular way to catch them during this time of year. And one of the things I want to point out is the BB Cricket by Gambler. It is a very sleek, low profile bait, and it not only does it mimic a small crawfish, but it also looks like a grass shrimp, and it has a low profile to it. It's very compact, and I think in those conditions, that's one of the things that the bass are looking for. Their metabolism's down. They're looking for an easy snack, kind of like, you know, like us going to a finger food bar. So it's easy for them. And so one of the things I did was I rigged it on a Cobra hook, 3/0 Cobra hook, and it's pegged with one of the Jethro flipping weight pegs, and it's also got an Elite Tungsten 1.5 ounce flipping weight. And this bait here, it's compact. It's not like the bulkier baits that are out there. Some of these other creature baits, you know, provide a little more flash and flare, but for this time of year, this bait right here is real easy to get in that thick cover. And on windy days, sometimes you have to go to a 2-ounce weight to get to it. But the BB Cricket has always been a go-to bait for me. It's my confidence bait, and Gambler has done a real fantastic job of putting together a real effective bait that can produce largemouth here in these cold front conditions. And so one of the things I kind of targeted was heavy matted vegetation near other vegetation, such as lily pads, buggy whips, cattails that was blown in there, and the cleaner water also helped as well. And just making real calculated pitches to matted up vegetation, and really remembering where you pitched before and going about 6 inches over and making another pitch in there and working that bait over. And a lot of times the fish would come up and hit the bait with their nose and wouldn't take it. And that's where you knew a fish was around, and you really just had to work that bait and keep it in that area and just aggravate that bass until he was decided to hit. So what we were doing is we'd get this bait and we'd punch it through the mat, and once we get through the mat, we would just keep it up at the top of the mat. And this bait looks so at home, it looks so real when it's up under that mat, just right there and not going straight to the bottom, because those crawfish and those grass shrimp live up under those mats, and those mat roots produce the heat, and that's where the bait's going to be. That's where the bass are going to have their backs up against, and they're going to be suspended up under that mat. And so this bait right here, with its small profile, really looks real, and it looks like an easy target for them, and the bass just come in there and they'll wreck it at that time of year, because it's what they're looking for. It's low profile, it's easy, and it looks real. And another thing with the BB Cricket is it's not just a cold front bait. It's a year-round bait in Florida. Even in the summertime, when bass come off the bed and they're hitting top water, they're looking to feed, this little bait right here will also get the job done in 90-degree water up under those same mats when you find them, because there's some fish that never leave those areas. And even though this is a small bait and the fish are chasing bluegill and shell cracker that time of year, they won't turn their nose to this BB Cricket. It always looks like an easy meal for them. They'll go after it, and you can always bank on looking for that kicker fish to have a BB Cricket. I always have one on the front deck of my boat. It's old school flipping, and it's always going to be on the front deck of my boat, rigged with this same 1.5 ounce weight, sometimes 2 ounces depending on the wind, and you know, a Cobra hook. I like to use a 7-Eleven Halo flipping stick. This is the XXX. It's the one I use in the open, and it has a lot of backbone to it, because when you pull them out of that heavy cover, this is the kind of stick that you want. It's going to have absolutely no give, and you're going to need everything to work in your advantage when you're getting them out of those mats. I like to use a high gear ratio reel to maximize the number of pitches that I can make in an area. And on this one I have a loose speed spool. It's a 7:1 gear ratio. And again, even in the summertime, springtime, fall, when those mats are there for you and they're isolated, this is the number one bait to use when you're flipping mats, because it's going to get in that mat easier. You're going to be able to maximize the number of pitches, and you're going to be able to have your better hook set on those fish as well. And another thing too, I recently learned when I was in Santee Cooper, this bait works outside the state of Florida. You know, we were flipping in areas where there wasn't a lot of vegetation. We busted back into some ponds, and there's some mats back in there. Look a little bit different than Florida mats, but a lot of guys are doing some other creature baits up there. I reverted back to my confidence bait, and that's the BB Cricket. And I went in there, and it worked. It worked not as good as it does in Florida, but it still worked. It was something I think they never seen before. Low profile bait, and it's something that I'm always going to have on the front deck of my boat. Very confident. It's a very confident lure for me, and I think if you guys give it a try, you'll find that you can maximize the number of pitches that you can have, and you're going to put more bigger fish in the boat.